Hey all you cool cats and kittens, today we're going to be reviewing everything we learned in astronomy yesterday. We're specifically going to be reviewing everything about the sun and the stars. Anyone tell me what we already have learned about the stars? Yes, very good. They are very far away from us. What else? Yes, they are bright lights. Is there anything else you can add? Okay, yes, the stars only come out at night. Let's try and find out why today. I'd like for you to raise your hand if you can see stars at night where you live. In some places, you can see the stars a lot clearer than others. It also depends on where you live. I wonder why it is. Why can we only see the stars at night? Where do they go during the daytime? I personally love looking at the night sky. It's something that I've always liked to do. I look up at the stars and I try to see different shapes out of it. These are known as constellations. Do you guys remember from yesterday when we read the book on the Big Dipper? The Big Dipper is a constellation, and this is something that we're going to look at today in class. There are so many stars out there. We couldn't even count, and most of them we actually can't even see. Even when astronauts go into space, they don't even get close enough to stars. So, if we want to investigate stars, this is something that we're going to have to do ourselves. We have to create our own space within the classroom. We're going to turn off the lights and shut the curtains, and we're going to resemble the night in our classroom. This activity, we're going to try and resolve the question of why stars only come out at night. Where do they go during the daytime? Let's try and figure it out. When we read The Big Dipper by Franklin Brandley in class, well, today we are going to use the Big Dipper in our experiment. We're going to try to see where the Big Dipper goes during the day when the sun is out. Remember what seasons we can see the Big Dipper during. Okay, we actually can see the Big Dipper during each season, but it's just in a different spot in the sky. Now that we have reviewed the Big Dipper, let's see exactly what happens to it during the daytime during our experiment. In today's activity, we are creating a star maker. No, these are not real stars, but they're spots of light that look just like stars. This is what we call a model. A model is something that is a pretend copy of the real thing. We are making a pretend copy of the constellation, the Big Dipper, that you can see in the sky. Our star maker is going to be a paper cup. I have little paper cutouts of the Big Dipper for you to use. And then we have two flashlights. One is going to be the light for our constellations, and one is going to be the star. So we have a star maker and the sunlight. Create our star maker and then shine a light through it that is going to resemble the Big Dipper. And then once we have our Big Dipper created, we're going to shine it onto the paper, and that's going to resemble the night sky. We're going to see how the second light affects the sky and where the Big Dipper goes once the sun comes out. I'll start showing you step by step how we're going to create our star maker. Not only do we need our cup and our paper, but we have a push pin that we're going to be super careful with when we're using, and then we have a pair of scissors because you each individually need to cut out your paper. The very first thing we need to start with is cutting the Big Dipper out of the paper. You're going to take your scissors in whichever hand you usually write with, and you're going to cut around the circle very carefully. You want to stay around the dotted lines, and if it's easier, you can move the paper rather than move the scissors. I already went through and created one, so I can show you an example, but I want to go through and work on this with you directly. So once you cut your circle out, that's when you can take your cup, and it should fit directly at the very bottom of your cup. You're going to take it, and you're going to have two pieces of tape. It shouldn't take more than two, but if it does, that's okay too. You want to be very careful to make sure you don't put any tape over the dots, because that's where we're going to poke our stars. Once you're sure that the Big Dipper is secure, that's when you can take your safety pin, and you're going to put it on your desk, and you're going to hold it with two hands. You hold your cup, and then you hold your safety pin, and you're going to go through and carefully poke holes in each of the stars. There are 7 stars total in the Big Dipper. I'm going to lift this up only so I can show you that I go through. Star maker ready. We're ready for the light behind our star maker. We're going to practice with it in the light just so we can make sure that you can see all of the lights. I'm reflecting it right onto the floor right now and I can see it, but once we turn off the lights it'll be a lot clearer. It might take some practice, but that's okay too. Once we're sure that we're ready and we can see all of our stars, it's time to turn the lights off and shut the curtains so that we can see it on the night sky. Partners, you guys are going to take turns being the star maker and being the sunshine. So what is going to happen when the sun rises and when the sun sets on our Big Dipper? Each of you and your partner have been the star maker and the sunshine. It's time to go back to your seats, and I want you to write in your journal what exactly happened during our activity. What happened to the stars? Where did they go? And why do they necessarily disappear? Now, if you finish discussing with your partner, writing in your journal, and there's still time left over, you can grab one of the iPads in the classroom and you can look at iSky. This is an app that allows you to explore different areas of the sky and see all the other constellations that are out there. I have some pictures of what it'll look like on my phone because I don't have my iPad here with me. You can look at the different skies. And then I expect you to be able to tell us in class what some of the other constellations you saw. Finish discussing with your partners what has happened and reflecting in your journal. You can grab an iPad and I'd like you to go through and explore the night sky. Tell me what all the other constellations are that you see. And then when we join together as a class, after everyone's finished, we're going to discuss what happened in the experiment, why we think what happened, and if anyone else was able to explore with the constellations, we can share what we saw. Here are some of the examples of the things that you can see on the app. There's so many different constellations and so many different stars. There's a lot more things that we have to learn about in class together. Activity, we learned the fact that the sun outshines all of the stars. The only reason we can't see the stars during the daytime is because the sun is so bright that it blurs everything else out. Moon, we were just starting to talk about the moon in class. And if the moon is bright, one night you can see less stars around it than you would on a night that there isn't nearly as much light coming from the moon. So really are there all the time, even if we can't necessarily see them. This is something that we learned today during our activity. We still have plenty more to learn about the sky.